Hey guys, Asian Kyle bringing you another knife review today on the Benchmade 940. I've had this blade now for about a month, and my question to you is, why bother? I've kind of limited it down to about three areas in which we're going to briefly go over today about why I bought this knife and why it continues to be in my pocket nearly every single day. First off, this thing just carries so well. When we compare it to this Pilot G2 pin, we see that they're about the same thickness. To me, that's very important. It means that the knife is going to disappear in my pocket and I'm not going to feel it there. It just takes up hardly any room in the pocket at all. Kind of on that note, it's not very wide. When we compare this blade against some of my other Spydercos or even your Spydercos, we see that the Spydercos take up a substantial amount of room in our pocket because of the thumb hole. It feels like their blades take up double the room in pocket than most Benchmades do. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but for me, how it carries is very important. And if we're completely honest with ourselves, our knives spend about 90 to 95% of our day in our pockets not being used. We don't open carry them with the blades out running around like this all day. They sit in our pocket where they're comfortable, where they belong. How they carry should be on your list of if you should buy this blade or not. It's a very important factor to me, and as it should be for you. This knife carries very well. It just absolutely disappears. Secondly, the quality of construction. This is my first aluminum handled blade, and I gotta say, I'm not disappointed at all. The aluminum has been nicely rounded in every single way. There is light jimping. It's not all that grippy, but that's alright. There are no sharp corners or hot spots in this blade, and yes, I've used it somewhat hard. The only sharp areas in the knife, other than the blade, are just a little bit right there. And that's honestly not something that I've really concerned myself with. They could have rounded it, yes, but this isn't going to be a deal breaker for me. Along with the quality of the construction, we see here that Benchmade has only done partial stainless steel liners. They do this in a lot of their knives, and I believe that's mostly because not every blade needs a full stainless steel liner. If you watch any Nut and Fancy videos, which I'm sure you have, he harps on blades all the time for their stainless steel liners. They're heavy, they're thick, and most of all, they add to the weight of the blade without giving a whole lot of return as far as strength goes. Benchmade, in my opinion, has found the perfect balance between having a stainless steel liner for strength, but keeping the weight down. And they execute it very nicely in all of their blades. That stainless steel liner does more than just add strength and rigidity to the blade. It also gives the user some confidence in hand knowing that they have stainless steel liners in their blades. Moving up onto the blade itself, S30V steel. This is just such a great steel for an EDC knife. And in the knife communities, more and more makers are moving towards this being a standard for their blades. It's a little more costly, but in my opinion, it's well worth it. The S30V blade takes a great edge, holds a pretty good edge, and most of all, it's just a strong, durable steel. Another thing that just kind of falls into the quality of the construction is the oh so famous axis lock. Some people love it, some people hate it. I happen to fall in the category where I really enjoy the axis. I mean, what more fun is this than doing this at your desk during the day or when you get home? Is you can mindlessly do it, and as long as your fingers are out of the way, it's probably the safest lock there is. The axis lock is also very strong. And I know some people out there have hesitations with the Omega rings, but if those were to ever fail, you can always send it in Benchmade and they would repair it for you free of charge, thanks to their lifetime warranty. Also with the quality, the last thing we see here is this beautiful purple anodized titanium backspacer. This just goes to show how much Benchmade cares about their knife by putting something in there that's just different. It's cool, and it's built very well. It doesn't stick up too far away from the handle, actually hardly any at all, which if they wanted to, they could have stuck it out just a little bit, and most people would have been okay with that. The knife itself is just built with a very high amount of quality into it. We can see that in the liners, or not the liners, sorry, the scales with all the milling they've done and the lack of hot spots. And you can do some work with it, as I've said I have. The only thing it lacks is just a little bit of jimping for that field of area. The last thing is just the coolness factor. I mean, come on, it's a 940. If you don't have one of these in your collection already, don't worry, it'll get there eventually. The 940 has been a staple of Benchmade's production models ever since its inception and creation brought to life. It's just cool. It may be a higher price production folder, but you know what? To me, it's worth it. And if you ask any other 940 owner, they'll say the same thing. Another thing in the cool factor, as I've already mentioned, is this just gorgeous purple titanium backspacer. I mean, no matter what light you're in, your eye catches it and it draws it away from this being a knife. You see it and it just blows me away every time. It's just absolutely beautiful, just gorgeous. Probably my favorite feature on this knife as a whole. Another thing that kind of falls in the coolness factor is it just being different. This isn't like any of my other knives in my collection, and if you own one or you're planning on owning one, it won't be like a lot of the other knives in your collection either. Everything from this reverse Tonto blade to the green, yes green, anodized handle scales to the purple backspacer, this knife just stands alone and is not like anything else in our collections. And for that reason, it's just cool. I also really personally like the blade shape. I know some people don't like it, but this reverse Tonto is very distinctive. Everything from the way it looks to this swedge that's been milled out a little bit to help save some weight, just to where the blade sits in comparison to the handle, as we see it sloping ever so slightly downwards. The blade is just really cool. The entire shape of the knife is really cool. And lastly, it's a slender big knife. I mean, really. A blade that comes in just under 3.5 inches, and yet carries like a 2.5 inch folder. In my opinion, that's a win. But now we get to that point of the video where we have to talk about some of the negative things. I'm going to roll in a couple pictures for you to see where there has been some wear marks, and those happened within the first week. No more wear has happened to the scales since then, but point still being the titanium anodized, the aluminum green anodized handles do show the wear marks. Another thing with the handles is when I first got it, it had this really chalky texture. It felt like the old days with the schools where we used chalk, and I am glad that they've switched over to dry erase whiteboard markers. Every time I would touch the blade, and my wife included, we felt like we needed to wash our hands to rid ourselves of that chalky dust feeling. I can positively say that was solved by just taking a sponge and some soap and water and just lightly washing it off and scrubbing a little bit. It still maintains some grip, as you can hear, but it's not chalky feeling at all. Another thing that I have to harp on is Benchmade's poor grind on this knife. I just feel that the grind could have been done a lot better for what you pay for in this knife. It doesn't cut very well, and it just doesn't hold an edge near as well as my Spyderco S30Bs do. Benchmade, please improve your grind on this blade some. I don't like the grind, but I love the knife. And lastly, the really crappy original clip. As you can see, this is not the stock clip anymore. I changed it out for a deep carry from Benchmade, and it carries a lot better. In my opinion, Benchmade should put one of their split arrow clips on this, or one of the newer clips that we see on the 940-1, or even this one. Just not that really crummy original clip that it comes with. As we wrap up here, I can positively say that if I were to lose this knife, I would buy another. I'm so impressed by this blade. It carries so well, and it has dominated my pocket time ever since I got it. This was a purchase that was well worth it, and in my opinion, a very high value knife despite its price. Well guys, my recommendation is stop thinking about getting one, go and grab one. If you look hard, you can find them for about 150 bucks shipped, and if not, you can still find them for about 180 Blade HQ or Amazon. This is Asian Kyle guys, signing off with the Benchmade 940.